Welcome back to Education. This is Ed. Today I'm going to be talking about INO, Inovio Pharmaceuticals. Make sure to drop a like to this video to help the channel grow, subscribe, and leave your notifications on. At any point of the video, if you feel you're missing on technical analysis in here, you'll find a playlist in the description below that explains each of these technical indicators and what they mean. Now, I'm going to go through technical analysis, news, what I think about this company's presentation, and my final recommendation for myself on how I play the stock. Now, at any point of this video, if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as fast as I can. Let's jump right into it. On the 1 week perspective, we get to see here on the MACD, we're actually gone a bit more negative on the 6th of September, and it looks like it might be bouncing back up. This is a little bit of a confirmation, although nothing significant there yet. William %R puts this stock at increasingly overbought. It was oversold previously, and now it's increasingly heading towards the overbought. I think it's as overbought as almost can get. Average directional index puts in this uptrend at 52.4, which is usually a little bit unsustainable, and momentum seems to have dipped quite a bit, and the MACD doesn't look all bullish. Now, the only thing that looks bullish here is the really amazing moving averages, but that's about it. Everything else looks bearish, so on the 1 week perspective, it is somewhat bearish in my opinion. On the 1 month, 1 day perspective, we get to see an ADX that supports in a strong indication of a trend here at the 20.41%. We get to see the William %R though is overbought, and you get to see the momentum here is increasingly getting up, and a really nice reversal confirmed on the 11th of September, where it really continues to see positive highs. Now, the stock is finally above the 200 SMA, a really bullish sign on the moving averages. Although here, that's the only thing that is bullish on this one on moving averages. It's still below the 50 SMA, which is bearish. 30 EMA is above the 10 SMA, which is bearish, and it's still in the trading action zone. But this is a bearish trading action zone where negative reversals are likely. So that is a little bit of a dangerous zone overall. It looks somewhat between bullish and bearish on the 1 day perspective, and it has a chance to still see a bit more green days. Now, on the 1 hour perspective, we get to see something a little bit different here and exciting. A golden star has been formed around 2 p.m. today that made it even go higher than we anticipated before, and it looks incredibly bullish on the 1 hour perspective in terms of moving averages. You get to see 10 SMA is above 30 EMA, it's above the VWAP, 50 EMA is above 200 SMA, bullish all across on the moving averages. Although on the ADX here, a really interesting thing. The ADX usually above 50, it signals an indication for a reversal is likely. And since this is a very positive trend that it's seen, at 68.01, it's 20 above the ADX where negative reversals are likely. So the trend is probably not going to be as stable. We're probably going to be seeing a bit of pullbacks here and there. Now, on the William %R, though, it's sitting a little bit around neutral, but momentum is incredibly strong, and the MACD looks like it's marching in ahead quite strong. Although it looks a little bit flat, but that is because of the extended hours and lower volumes. Now, if we were to look onto the moving averages, we get to see the stock is expected to trade on the top at 1349, in the middle 1187, and on the bottom 1073. We can get to see it's way above that all over. Now, on the unbalanced volume, it's still not the highest on the unbalanced volume, but it is the highest ever since the 10th of August. Now, if we were to look at Fibonacci retracements, we get to see a significant support at the 944 and a significant resistance at the 1409. Now, if we were to look into significant supports and resistances, we're going to be looking into a bunch of them here. So currently we're going to go through resistances. The current resistance sits at the 1371 mark. Right above that, we're looking at the 1390 mark, and then this is a really significant one. If it breaks it, you can actually see a little bit of higher jumps. Above that, 1429. Then above that, 1453. And then above that, we're looking at 1486. And then above that, we're looking at 1501. And finally, the 1530 mark. Now, if we were to be looking here on support, we're looking at 1280, and then below that we're looking at 1261, which is a significant support, and then 1189, and then your stop limit would probably be just below the 1169, somewhere closer to the 1160, just below 1116. So let's try to look into trend lines here to try to figure out, well, has it broken that trend that has previously formed? And if we were to look all the way back to, let's say, year to date, and if we were to draw that trend line here, we get to see that this trend here significantly from around this area here hasn't been broken yet. So this massive uptrend, we're still seeing it up. Now, if we were to look at a channel, for instance, and get to see, well, has it formed a channel? Just because we see a lot of movement on the top, closer towards that massive jump, I'm going to ignore this massive jump, and I'm going to basically take in these kind of resistances into this channel. And you get to see that, yes, it is trading, is still in the channel. It is on the bottom side of the channel, although is it going to go more off on the upper side of the channel? That is the question. So the next trading day, if you see it more on a green phase and it's actually still continuing on with strong momentum, then it gives you a sense that this trend is probably going to go to the upper channel, is going to trade nicely. Otherwise, it might actually still continue to oscillate a little bit more sloppy in the bottom channel as it did before. But this trend line has not been broken yet, going all the way back from where it was on January, including into the March dip. But this massive March spike was because of their COVID-19 vaccine. Now, let's jump a little bit into news and company information. So they have different pipelines and different services and operations and partnerships they work with. So it's quite impressive on paper. Of course, just to mention quickly, their upcoming events, including September 17th for Cancer Global Healthcare Conference by their CEO and president, and then September 23rd as well for the Fall Healthcare Life Science and Medic Summit. So now towards their presentation, and this one here is quite impressive in my opinion, just going on from the start. You get to see basically some of their powering of a new decade of the DNA vaccines or medicines. You get to see, for instance, DNA vaccines, the first and only COVID-19 vaccine to show long-term protection against the live virus and NHP 13-week post-vaccination. The first vaccine to generate immune response against COVID-19 variant D614G. First vaccine in phase 2 for Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, which is this one I believe is the MARS, a little bit different than SARS. First DMAB TM plasma in phase 1 for Zika virus. First to show clearance of high-risk HPV 16/18 in phase 2b trial. First DNA medicine in phase 3 clinical trials for VGX-31000 for cervical dysplasia. First to show complete response in phase 1 for neck and head cancer. First DNA medicine to show potential for efficacy in GBM. So in vivo immune response for off-the-shelf speed, efficacy, extensive patent portfolio, protecting technology platform, precisely designed plasmids delivered through proprietary smart devices, safe and robust immune system in more than 2,000 patients. So quite an amazing presentation here they have. There's a lot to go through, but I'm going to go basically and highlight some of the things that basically popped up once I was going through this presentation. Now, one of the amazing things they have is in their pipelines for DNA medicines, including things like cervical dysplasia, precancerous vulvar dysplasia, precancerous anal dysplasia, and a bunch of them RRP, head and neck cancer, cervical, and a bunch of other cancers, prostate cancers, GMBs. You can get to see here is some of them are internally funded, but some of them as well are externally funded, including with partners such as AstraZeneca, which is big pharma. Now you get to see as well other ones as well for their continued ones, right? They don't finish there. HIV, Ebola, MERS, Zika, Lassa fever, COVID-19. Now, since their MERS as well is actually going way ahead in terms of their phases, MERS and SARS are basically of similar families from my understanding, so they have a little bit of ahead of ways. And you get to see some of the externally funded as well. For instance, like Zika, you got the Bill Gates Foundations as well. So it looks like this company has a lot of potential and a lot of interest from other external organizations. That is good in my opinion. Now they do have next milestones, and the milestones really go on through here, including report on Puerto Rico study 2020, initiate phase 2 clinical trial in the Middle East for MERS, seeking additional grant funding for phase 2 development, phase 1/2 HIV trial study for HIV, and some including for COVID-19 INO 4800 vaccine, including, for instance, the September 2020 the phase 2/3 expected trials to begin, which is in this month, and the ongoing INO R800 COVID-19 DNA vaccine production and scale up on the underway. And so you expect that, you know, there is a lot of potential on there. For the INO 4800 rapid response, the first subject treated in phase 1 was all the way back at April 6th. And that is amazing news. You get to see basically the species they've actually worked on is mouse, guinea pig, rabbits, NHP, and ferrets. And there is a lot of developments as we get to see here. In terms of the COVID-19 vaccines with no adverse effects for higher than greater 1, the trials for INO R4800 has target spike protein and protects against SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19. A lot of details here. I'm not going to go through every single one, otherwise the video will probably be quite long. But this is a really interesting presentation found on their website. I'm going to skip through them, and I'm going to go through basically other information as you have. Now, they do have a fact sheet that basically puts this one a little bit into a smaller perspective, but basically covers almost everything I did mention. But if you would like to go on it, I would recommend that you do go on it. So on the website, you'll find it in the link in the description below. Click on there, click into investor media, and then presentation. If we were to look into the INO institutions, you get to see only 2 transactions in February. In December. My bad, September. Wow, it's not even February or December yet. I really hope we make it to December after the elections and everything. But 11th of September, 1672 an average price for around 600 shares. A very small position here. You get to see on the 15th, 2 Sigma advisors have decreased their full position to 0. So they wiped up their entire equity for the stock. If we were to look into the latest news, this one here is quite interesting, and I want to highlight it. The first 20% each award will be earned if the company is planned 2/3 clinical trial for INO 4800, which is the COVID-19 vaccine candidate, is fully enrolled. Additionally, 25% of each will be earned if the company receives more than a specified amount of non-dilutive third-party funding. Additionally, 25% of each award will be earned if the company completes manufacturing of at least 100 million doses of INO 4800. And then the remaining 30% will be awarded if the INO 4800 receives regulatory approval by the FDA. Now, what is this telling me? The company has a lot of interest in this one. They're creating around 100 million doses of this vaccine that has a lot of promise in their opinion. And here's the big thing. Their employees, a lot of the reward that they're giving, almost around $3.5 million and $1.5 million in rewards, these will only be granted given that they actually meet certain milestones. And so then they're more of intrinsic motivation towards reaching that, and that is amazing from my perspective. In terms of insiders, nothing significant other than a sale a month ago of around 19,000 shares, but they still have around 44,000 shares. Now, Ed, how are you going to play this stock, and what do you see in the future for it? Now, this splits to 2 ways. I'm going to go into the 1 week perspective as we did previously, and we get to see that the MACD might actually be curving up, although somewhat it gives you a little bit of an indication of a warning sign. On the 1 day as well, you get to see that the MACD looks positive here, and the ADX is alright, but basically on the 1 hour is where it looked bearish, or not bearish, an indication of a really strong indication of something coming in as a pullback. Now, this one looks like it's already on an uptrend. Now, if you buy around the $3, wow, I would think you should probably hold. I mean, you're not going to make a loss. But you should probably start locking profits if it spikes again around the 30s or something. You should have been there. But the biggest thing is that this is already in a channel. It's a strong channel. Now the channel is being tested. Whether it jumps into the upper part of the channel, that's a question, where I would say hold it until there. But if it drops to the bottom of the channel, then it would be a buy. If it's on the top of the channel, it's a sell. And if it's in the middle, it's basically a hold. Basically, that is what I'm trying to convey here. It's a little bit if you're trading this, but if you're doing in terms of a longer one, this is one of the stocks that you probably should be holding just because of their COVID-19 vaccine candidate. And if positive news comes in and there's a lot of different developments for it, you probably will see a return for it. So for that, I'm going to give it a speculative hold with long-term potential. What do you think about this ticker? Make sure you mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like. You have a wonderful day.